Today's program is brought to you by OTCStockShark.com. For the latest and greatest OTC and Pink Sheets information, sign up for your account at OTCStockShark.com. Thank you for tuning in to TBC Today. I'm Brandon Vincent.
And I'm Angelina Soriano.
In financial news, U.S. stocks broadly fell Tuesday after China's sudden rate hike and as a barrage of corporate earnings disappointed investors. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was recently down 107 points to 11,036, with international business machines, Microsoft, and Alcoa leading the decline. The S&P 500 stock index fell 11 points to 1,174 as the energy, healthcare, and technology sectors slumped. The technology-heavy NASDAQ Composite dropped 25 points to 2,456. The losses followed China's central bank decision to raise interest rates for the first time in nearly 3 years, as the Beijing government attempts to contain inflation and soaring property prices. The People's Bank of China said it will raise its benchmark one-year lending and deposit rate by 0.25 percentage point. The move boosted the dollar but hurt the commodities and equities. In U.S. news, someone fired shots at the Pentagon early Tuesday in what security officials described as a random event. No one was injured in the pre-dawn incident, which shots were fired into the two windows at the sprawling Defense Department just across the Potomac River in suburban Virginia. Stephen Calvary, director of the Civilian Pentagon Force Protection Agency, told reporters that authorities would have to reevaluate their assessment if they find the incident was part of a larger plot. He said authorities did not yet have any suspects. Mr. Calvary said a number of his officers reported hearing 5 to 7 shots fired at about 4:55 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time near the south parking lot of the Pentagon. The building and roads leading to the property were shut down as officers did an initial sweep of the area. They were reopened 45 minutes later. An internal search of the building found fragments of 2 bullets still embedded into 2 windows, one on the 3rd floor and one on the 4th. The bullets had shattered but did not penetrate the windows, Mr. Calvary said. The windows were part of offices that were being renovated and they were unoccupied at the time. He said he didn't know what kind of weapon was used, but that it was probably a high-velocity rifle. Officials said that it was the first incident of its kind since early March when a gunman opened fire at a security checkpoint at the Pentagon in an attack that wounded 2 police officers. In international news, by many measures, this resource-rich city in northern China is a fabulous success. It has huge reserves of coal and natural gas, a fast-growing economy, and a property market so sizzling hot that virtually every house put up for sale here is immediately snapped up. There is just one thing largely missing in the city's extravagant new central district: people. Ordos proper has 1.5 million residents, but the Tomorrowland version of Ordos, built from scratch on a huge plot of empty land 15 miles south of the old city, is all but deserted. Broad boulevards are unimpeded by traffic in the new district called Kangbashi New Area. Office buildings stand vacant, pedestrians are in short supply, and weeds are beginning to sprout up in luxury villa developments that are devoid of residents. But 4 years after the city government was transplanted to Kangbashi, and with tens of thousands of houses and dozens of office buildings now completed, the 12-square-mile area has been derided in the state-run newspaper China Daily as a ghost town monument to excess and misplaced optimism. As China's roaring economy fuels a wild construction boom around the country, critics cite places like Kangbashi as proof of a speculative real estate bubble. They warn that it will eventually pop, sending shockwaves through the banking system of a country that has for the last 2 years been the prime engine of global growth.
Attention if you have diabetes.
Hello, I'm Alan Thicke. As the father of a child with diabetes, it's important that I keep up to date with the latest in treatments and technology. That's why I'm happy to tell you about a breakthrough in diabetes care through CCS Medical. You don't need to stick your fingers anymore. This new meter allows you to test on your arm, so it's virtually pain-free. Plus, it uses gold test strips. Real laser-etched gold in every strip provides the ideal testing surface for one of the most accurate readings possible. Best of all, CCS Medical can send you this meter at no cost. With CCS Medical, they deliver your diabetes supplies to your home. They work with Medicare or your insurance to process the paperwork. They even have nurses certified in diabetes available to answer questions. And for a limited time, CCS Medical will also send you a diabetes cookbook. All this from a company trusted and recommended by thousands of doctors around the country. Call CCS Medical today.
In entertainment news, when the Black Keys won the Best Breakthrough Video VMA last month for their song Tighten Up, they received a trophy that said Black Eyed Peas instead of their own name. and they just had to share it with the world. MTV apologized to the Black Keys for what was a somewhat understandable printing error. MTV sincerely regrets the clerical error that resulted in the Black Keys receiving the wrong VMA award. The statement read, "We are happy to report that new trophies reflecting the Black Keys win are currently in development and they should receive them shortly. Lastly, we want to thank the Black Keys for their considerable patience and understanding regarding this matter." In tech news, Palm has announced the Pre 2 along with a major update to its WebOS. It will be available to buy in France this Friday on SFR and will be available in the United States on Verizon and in Canada in the coming months. Not much has changed with the hardware. In fact, from the outside, the Pre 2 is almost identical to the Pre, and it still has the slide-out QWERTY keyboard of the original. There are a few differences. The camera is now 5 megapixels as opposed to 3. Memory has jumped from 8 gigabytes to 16, although the upgraded Pre Plus already got this boost, and well, that's about it. You probably won't notice the difference in your hand, which leaves the interesting stuff to WebOS 2.0. The headline feature is true multitasking, which HP and Palm say allows you to switch between apps and then go back to where you left off. This doesn't actually look anything like true multitasking, which keeps the applications open and running and even rendering unseen graphics as happens on a PC. In fact, it looks a lot like Android and iOS versions of multitasking, which effectively pause apps when they're not in actual use. The presentation is different, though, with an update to the cards metaphor that the original WebOS used to organize app windows. Now these will be sorted into stacks, grouped by task. In green news, ask people if they want to pay more for something, especially something that they're not entirely familiar with, and chances are that their default answer will be no. That's quite expected. So when Nielsen asked citizens of the US and the UK if they would consider buying an electric car and how much extra they were ready to pay, the results weren't very surprising. When asked if they would be willing to pay more for an electric car than the cost of a conventional car, 65% of US consumers said that they did not want to pay more for electric cars. In the UK, more than 3/4, 76%, were unwilling to pay more. Of those who accepted the price differential, slightly more than half of consumers in both countries, 51 in the US and 57 in the UK, said that they would not be willing to pay more than $5,000 above the average price of a standard vehicle. If you ask people in the abstract if they are willing to pay more for a computer that is more expensive than most computers and can't do some things that others can, most games won't work, most software you already have probably won't be compatible, etc., they'd certainly say no. Yet Apple is approaching a $3 billion market value because it makes products that lots of people are ready to pay extra for. That's what electric car makers need to do, at least until they can reduce prices through economies of scale and technological breakthroughs. The parallel isn't perfect. Cars aren't consumer electronics, but the general idea still stands. Enough early adopters can be convinced to buy EVs as long as automakers make sure that they have some clear benefits over non-EVs. Some buyers will be ready to pay more just for the reduced pollution. Others might be interested in the high-tech factor or the gobs of low RPM torque, or the low cost of operation and not having to stop at the gas station. Some luxury buyers might even go electric for the exclusivity.
Thank you for tuning in to TBC Today. I'm Brandon Vincent.
And I'm Angelina Soriano.